What's up, guys? We're the Odds Couple. I'm Sam.
I'm Taylor.
I'm the stats guy.
I'm the fiance. We're here with one player from each team that you should absolutely be targeting in your fantasy league this year. All right, Sam, let's dive right into it. Who do you got for the AFC North? First up, the Ravens.
Ravens. Okay. Starting with the hometown team,
Yeah.
huh? All right, so Ravens, I got Mark Andrews. Definitely. I mean, with all the additions, Todd Monken going to be throwing the ball a lot more. They signed Lamar to a huge deal, so of course they're going to have him throw the ball more. They got OBJ, they drafted Zay Flowers, and those guys are probably going to be exciting. I'm more excited for Flowers, really. But I think more than anything, they're just going to open up the middle of the field for Andrews, and especially big situations, third downs, games on the line, whatever. Tiger's not going to change his stripes kind of situation. Lamar is going to throw to his safety blanket, which has always been Mark Andrews. Again, those new additions opening up the field, there's going to be less double teams on him. It's not like he had a bad year last year, but I just think he has a quote-unquote bounce-back year to, honestly, maybe even something like a career high year is what I'm seeing. I think he's going to be a top 3 tight end, definitely. I mean, which is where he's being drafted, but I think he could push to be the tight end 1 if Kelsey were to take any kind of step back.
Career high. You're feeling confident
I'm
there.
feeling confident.
Wow.
I like Mark Andrews this year.
All right, let's move on to the Bengals. Who do you have?
Bengals, I'm going with Joe Mixon. It's not a sexy pick or whatever, but just the where he's falling in drafts.
Is he related to Nixon?
Mixon.
Oh, all right.
He's a running back, going running back 15 to 20 in drafts. And I mean, he's really got no competition. I mean, P-Run's gone. They did draft a running back in the later rounds, Chase Brown, but I don't think he's going to be pushing him for much of a workload. Mixon's going to be an every down back for a high scoring offense. So yeah, I just based on usage, I like Mixon in Cincinnati.
All right, cool. Next up, we have the Steelers. Who do you have for me?
Steelers, I'm going George Pickens. I know, most people have probably seen his incredible catches in training camp and even last year in real games. You got Johnson there that I've seen going higher than Pickens in most drafts. And, he's a kind of catch machine, but he doesn't get many yards on his catches, and he had 0 touchdowns last year. And while that's insanely unlikely to happen again, he'll probably have a few. I think Pickens leads the receiver group in touchdowns. He's going to be the go-to guy. He's a prototypical receiver, again, with amazing hands, making acrobatic catches. I think if your boy, Morgan Wallen, Kenny Pickett, takes a step forward, I think Pickens reaps the benefits, and they have a good chemistry, and yeah, that's who I'm going with.
Hopefully he doesn't let last night's liquor talk.
Yeah, I mean, let's hope he's not drinking before games. But, I mean, look, he's going past wide receiver 30, and I think he could be a wide receiver 2 for your team by the end of the year, honestly. So,
all right. Let's move on to the Browns. Who do you have for me?
Browns, I'm going Elijah Moore. It's outside of Nick Chubb, which, of course, if he's there at where you should be drafting him, of course you take him. I think Elijah Moore's got a lot of talent. He was a high pick for the Jets, and just things didn't work out there. But he's even when he played for them, he showed some spurts of his talent. Deshaun Watson was absolutely abysmal last year. While I don't care for him much as a quarterback, I think it's impossible that he duplicates that year. And yeah, the offense goes through Chubb, but for where he's being drafted, I like Elijah Moore. I like his talent. He's only got Amari Cooper ahead of him. So if they do throw the ball more, I think he could be. Again, you're not drafting him to be your 1 or 2 receiver, but he could be a good fill-in and stuff, a good bench stash. So, yeah.
All right. Let's move on to the AFC East. Who do you have for me on the Bills?
AFC East Bills, I'm going James Cook. Of course, honestly, I almost changed this to Gabe Davis because, again, he's been falling so much, and I think he's kind of like a post-hype sleeper. I'm kind of talking myself back into it as we talk about it now. But I really like James Cook. He's always, just based on the eye test, really, he's always been talented with the ball. He's a good pass catcher, and while the Bills don't throw a lot to their backs, I don't know. I know they signed Damian Harris, but I don't see him, and I think they have Latavius Murray too, but I don't see them really taking much away from him. Harris might be a goal line back or something, and yeah, Josh Allen, does run a lot inside the 10 and might vulture some touchdowns, but they're talking of running him less. Obviously he's their franchise quarterback, and yeah, I think Cook, especially by mid-season, is going to be far and away the RB1 there. And again, where he's going in drafts is I think he could be a steal for your team.
All right. Who do you have for the Dolphins?
Dolphins. I'm gonna go Jalen Waddle. Now again, high pick. So it's these aren't like sleepers or anything. It's but I think just his first 2 seasons he's been incredible. Granted, without Tua, he's been much worse.
Who?
Tua, their quarterback, Tua Tagovailoa.
Oh, okay.
He's the guy that you saw like he got knocked out. We'll just say. A couple times.
Oh.
Yeah. That's when he got knocked out. He was like, his hands were all like frozen and stuff. It was kind of freaky.
Okay.
But no, that is like a serious concern because if he's not in the if Tua's not starting, yeah, Jalen Waddle takes a huge hit, as do all the receivers in their whole offense. But especially him, he had like no chemistry with with anyone else there. Their backup is even slipping my mind right now. But he's with Tua in the lineup. He's been incredible. And his catches took a little bit of a hit last year, but his yardage was still there. They have such a high-powered offense. And yeah, again, just I think that continues. Again, it hinges on Tua, but if you think he's going to be healthy, draft Jalen Waddle. He'll be a wide receiver 1 for you likely.
All right, sounds promising. Who do you have for me on the Patriots?
Patriots. I'll be honest with you. When we worked this up, we were a little late posting this video, and they've since signed Ezekiel Elliott. But I had Ramondre Stevenson there, and honestly, I'm leaving him. Ezekiel Elliott might vulture some touchdowns or something. I know Belichick doesn't like. It's so hard to predict what running back to use with Belichick's history. He's always interchanging them and stuff, but Ramondre Stevenson is just the most talented back. Damian Harris is gone, and it's not like he was doing much, to take away from Stevenson last year. Again, most of that was injury related, but still, Stevenson's by far the most talented back. He's going to be a better pass catcher. I mean, if you look at Zeke from the past couple years with the Cowboys, he's just looked slow. Even in his training camp video that he posted to show how fast he was, he looked incredibly slow. I think you could go out there and run cones better than him. He's not going to be a threat. They might cut back Stevenson's workload. I think he said himself in the offseason he's probably was utilized too much. But, I mean, he's their best player. Who else are you going to go with on the Patriots?
Yeah, I understand that.
Pick their defense maybe. I don't know. Even that will probably take a step back.
All right, who do you have for me on the Jets?
Jets, I'm going Garrett Wilson.
Okay.
Hands down. I love Garrett Wilson this year. Literally in some of my drafts with where I'm picking, I'm almost upset because like I almost want to take him too early. Because I one of my drafts I drafted some receiver in the first round. I can't remember who, but I remember thinking like I should have just went with Garrett Wilson in the first round, which is insane, but also like I love him. Aaron Rodgers obviously being there. I mean, the guy put up huge numbers last year as a rookie. I think he finished in the top 10. He's going around wide receiver 11, throwing Rodgers, who's going to have something to prove throwing the ball. And, the guy's just phenomenal, and it's not just what you see on Hard Knocks. Honestly, I think he's going to move up in drafts just based on people watching Hard Knocks. That's what happens every year. Well, people for the Lions, I think Amon-Ra started moving up last year when people watched the Lions in Hard Knocks. So that kind of bothers me because I'm targeting him in every draft. I think he's just going to be phenomenal.
All right, let's move on to the AFC West. Let's go with the Chiefs first up.
Chiefs? So I'm going to go Justin Ross, who a lot of people might remember from Clemson. He had some injury history and stuff. He's been kind of hanging on with them. Made some waves in training camp. I actually saw a report the other day that he might not make the team, which I don't know. I mean, he was running with the ones and stuff. If he makes the team, I think this is like a deep sleeper. Honestly, you could pick him up off your waiver wire. I don't think he's even been being drafted in the ones that I'm in, but I just think they don't have a lot of talent at the wide receiver position, which they never really need on the Chiefs. He does have a couple guys they get past, but again, none of them are like, they've never really have like a wide receiver 1 since Tyreek Hill. Like they're always just interchanging people. But Ross has that prototypical, size and hands and the stuff that he's been showing in camp and whatnot. So I like him as a sleeper.
But you said that he might not be drafted?
That's a report I saw. Who knows? Again, I think he's going to be are you talking about being drafted or being cut? I said because he's not being
Yeah,
drafted.
yeah.
Well, in fantasy drafts, the ones that I'm in, he's like still available after the draft. So again, you're wasting nothing on him. Take him with your last pick.
Yeah.
Take him on a
Guess if you
waiver
wait till the
wire.
end.
If he gets cut or something, then get rid of him. But if he makes the team, while he might not show up in week 1 or 2, he could be a guy that shows up down the stretch. They have a couple injuries at the wide receiver position, and he shows up or something. And Kadarius Toney is their number 1, and seems to always have an injury going on. Sky Moore didn't do much last year. I know he was a rookie, but I think he even had some injury stuff. At the end of the day, it's someone you're wasting nothing on, and Patrick Mahomes might be throwing him the ball. So
Yeah, I get that. All right, let's move on to the Broncos. Who do you have for me?
Broncos, I'm going Jerry Jeudy. I just think, again, what's the situation of like who else do you go with? I mean, he's better than Cortland Sutton, for sure. He showed flashes in just horrific offense last year. He still showed flashes before he got hurt, flashes of brilliance. I think he's very talented. He's a crisp route runner. They got Sean Payton there, so their offense has to improve. It can't get any worse. And while I don't think Russell Wilson's going to be like the biggest comeback story, he's got to get better with Sean Payton there. And Judy's going to be his number 1 guy. Even, their running backs are still a question with Javonte Williams coming off, that huge injury. What do they have? Samaje P. Ryan is their backup. So I don't really care for their running backs, and I think Judy's their best receiver.
All right, sounds good to me. I'll put my money on him.
Yeah, I bet you would. Have you heard of his name before right now?
No.
Okay. Well, remember it.
Yeah, I will when he makes me lots of money.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing with them is he's got, not that he wouldn't probably be their number 1 receiver anyway, but they had, Tim Patrick was going to see the field a lot as a wide receiver 3. He got hurt. And KJ Hamler was like cut, hurt, whatever. I don't even know if they're going to re-sign him, and he's definitely not going to push him for targets and stuff. It's Jeudy and Sutton, and I think Judy's by far the better pick. And he's going behind guys like Metcalf, DJ Moore, Christian Watson. And while, DJ Moore could be, especially if they do like a lot of screen passes and stuff like they showed in preseason, he could be a good receiver. I'm not, discrediting that, but I don't like Metcalf this year, honestly. I think they have too many mouths to feed, and they're still a running team. And Geno Smith, who knows, is he a one-year wonder? And Christian Watson, I'm not a fan of with Jordan Love throwing the ball. So, just especially not as much as Jeudy. And if you can get him, after those guys, like why take them? I'd wait on Jeudy. So.
Okay. Up next, we have the Chargers. Who do you have for me?
Chargers, I'm going with Quentin Johnston. So they're a first-round draft pick, wide receiver, after, Josh Palmer didn't work out for their third wide out there. Look, Justin Herbert signing a big deal. Obviously, he's a great quarterback. They got Kellen Moore in now for their offensive coordinator, which I think is going to boost the offense. While he's another guy that's like, while he might not make a quite immediate impact, he's a guy that I could see as the season goes on, especially if Mike Williams and Keenan Allen, one of them get hurt or banged up for a couple games, which they tend to do. Mike Williams is always in and out of the lineup. I think Quentin Johnston, again, a prototypical guy. He's even good after the catch. He's a big dude that could, stretch the field, catch touchdowns. They took him with a first-round pick. They're going to use him.
Sounds like you feel as though this is a safe pick.
Safe? I mean, you're not. Again, he's a later-round guy. Safe as far as, like, you're not using one of your top 3 picks on him or something. You can get him later on. And, again, is he going to be a wide receiver 1? Of course not. He's not even a wide receiver 1 on his own team. But, I mean, he could end up being, if a couple injuries away or something, yeah. And then he's still useful as a plug-and-play guy, like on a bye week or something, even if he is their wide receiver 3. Yeah.
Okay. Up next, we have the Raiders.
Raiders, I'm going with Zamir White. So, strictly because, again, I don't love many other Raiders, I'll be honest with you. Devontae Adams, if he falls far enough and keeps falling, then, of course, that guy's incredible. But Garoppolo throwing him the ball, if Garoppolo even plays the whole season, Yeah, I mean, I don't feel comfortable drafting Devontae with one of my first two picks.
Yeah.
With what they got going on there, and obviously, the reason I say Zamir White is because Josh Jacobs, what's going on? I mean, who knows? Is he the new report now? I think it was today they came out. Yeah, he's gonna report by week 1, but at that point, it's like, will he? Like, who knows? He's up in the air. So
Yeah.
I don't want to take a pick on him either. So if he doesn't play or if he gets hurt, Zamir White's the next man up. And again, it's kind of one of those. If I'm taking somebody from the Raiders, it would be him, and you just take him with your last pick, or you get him on the waiver wire or whatever, and he's, kind of like not necessarily handcuffed back because I don't even really want Jacobs with him being in limbo.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, something happens, you have a starting running back now.
All right. Well, let's move on to the AFC South. First up, we have the Titans. Who do you have for me?
Titans. I should let you try and read this guy's name.
Uh-oh.
Because I'm actually not 100% sure how to say it. I used to know because he played for Maryland, and I actually, for some reason, I'm forgetting how to say it. But
spell it, and I'll sound it out.
Chigoziem, maybe? Chigoziem.
Chigoziem. You
Yeah.
got it.
So they call him Chig, so we'll just call him
They call him what?
Chig.
Chiggy?
Just Chig.
Chig. Got it. All right.
Let's hope he's not watching this. Chig Okonkwo.
Okay.
Again, a guy from Maryland, homegrown.
Oh.
So yeah, he's gonna be their starting tight end now for the Titans. Another guy you can get in with a late round pick, although he is starting to. People are kind of taking him as a sleeper. So, but he's a little undersized for a typical tight end. But if he can block even decent and stay on the field, he's gonna be a great guy with his speed to. As a pass catcher. So, and there's a couple, again, you watch a couple of his highlights of the big runs he's broken off after the catch. Yeah, and Titans love to throw to the tight end. I mean, guys like Jonnu Smith, again, I know that's awful for, in today's age, he was terrible for the Patriots, but remember him on the Titans, they loved throwing him the ball, and he was another guy that kind of reminds me of him. He could, he had some speed. He could stretch the field and stuff at the tight end position. And, again, you're taking a flyer. This is, if you're not going to take one of the top, 2 tight ends, maybe 3 with Hawkinson, just wait on a tight end and take a guy like him. And, if he doesn't work out after several weeks, then you can drop him and pick up another one and just stream tight ends. I mean,
now, when you say he's a little undersized, what do you mean? Like, what's the average size for that position?
I mean, he's like, I believe he's 6'2". I might be wrong on that, but he's not typically with tight ends. They're blocking a lot, so you might have a 6'5", 6'6" tight end or something where either they're big, so they're gonna catch, they're gonna get you some goal line targets, or they're big and strong to be able to block more. If he doesn't succeed in pass blocking. Or run blocking, I should say, really most times, because passing, he's going to be running the routes. But if he doesn't succeed as a blocker, he's going to see less of the field, is what I mean by that. Like, if he's just abysmal as a blocker, then they're not going to put him on the field because he can't. If they need to run the ball, he's not going to be efficient at that. And if they're going to play fake, they see him on the field, that might give away a play fake because they're going to know he's passing. Like, oh, he doesn't see the field when they run, so clearly this is a play action. So just stuff like that.
Yeah, it makes sense. All right, next up we have the Texans.
I'm going with another tight end, actually, Dalton Schultz. Again, I do like Dameon Pierce, don't get me wrong, but it depends where you can get him, and he's been climbing the boards on at least the drafts that I've seen, or I've been in. So while I do like Dameon Pierce, especially with, Bobby Slowick from the Niners is there now, so they're probably going to have a pretty good running game and focus on him a lot. I put Dalton Schultz because, again, another tight end toward the end of the draft that you can pick up. Rookies rely on tight ends a lot. He's a veteran guy from the Cowboys. He had some success last year with the Cowboys. I know different offense, but again, with their rookie quarterback, C.J. Stroud throwing him, probably relying on his tight end, throwing him the ball a lot. If you're in a PPR league, I mean, it's a great tight end to have at the end of the round or at the end of the draft or for nothing, really. Probably pick him up off the waiver wire, much less or just use a last pick on him or something. Same kind of thought. If you don't get the top 3 tight ends, you might as well wait on a guy like that.
Yeah.
If it doesn't work out, you switch him and stream somebody else.
All right, let's move on to the Jaguars. Who you gonna pick for me?
Jags, I'm going Trevor Lawrence, which, a lot of people are kind of in on him this year as well, but he's still going as like the QB8. And, he finished there last year, and I feel like he's only going to keep getting better. Obviously, first overall pick a couple years ago, and each year he's taking a step forward, especially with Doug Peterson there now. And, a lot of people are in on Calvin Ridley, who also has been climbing the draft boards a lot, and I almost feel like is being drafted too early at this point. Not to take away anything from him, because I think he's phenomenal talent, but you haven't seen him in 2 years. They do have a lot of other mouths to feed. They have a really good wide receiver group, and I just think while Calvin Ridley is a good addition and will help them, I think if anything, it's going to help Trevor Lawrence's value. And if you're not getting, kind of like I said with the tight ends, maybe if you're not getting one of those top 3-4 quarterbacks, the Mahomes and stuff, you can wait a lot longer and get Lawrence in much later rounds.
Yeah.
And he could surpass one of those guys. I could definitely see it. He started to use his legs a little more as the season went on, so he had a couple rushing touchdowns. The second half of the season, I want to say he was like either one or two quarterbacks for the second half of the season. He was like
wow.
either tied for the QB1 or he was just behind Mahomes or something. So, I think they only get better.
Looking promising.
Absolutely.
All right, last but not least, we have the Colts. Who you have for me?
Colts. So, I'm going Anthony Richardson, and I kind of want to say again, like, who else do you go with? Because Jonathan Taylor, at this point, they granted him permission to seek a trade, so he's probably not playing for the Colts again for another down. None of their backup backs excite me much. I mean, sure, pick them up if you can, because it's always great that if one of them stands out as a starter, then it's great to have a starting running back on your team, at least for a bench stash. But Anthony Richardson isn't just like, hey, who else am I going to pick? He's freak athlete. So I did not care for him as a quarterback in college just because the throwing, but it's fantasy purposes. So he's going to run the ball. And if he does it successfully, then he could crack top 10 quarterbacks, honestly. I mean, you see it with new guys with Lamar and Hurts and if they're running a bunch of read options and stuff, I don't really care if he is a horrible passer. If he's going to get me, 60 to 100 yards and a touchdown or two every game on the ground, then I'll take it, especially, where he's being drafted again. And while I'm not thrilled with him being like my starter, those guys at the bottom are all so close and stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, even someone like Aaron Rodgers is going undrafted or, toward the ending rounds. So, but he's got he's a potential high ceiling guy. So, yeah.
All right. Let's move on to the NFC North. We got the Bears first up. Who do you have for me?
Bears, I like Khalil Herbert with the Bears. And I know that they, I liked him, of course, a lot more when they originally cut, Devin Singletary. But I always, for some reason, mix those two up. And it's not Devin Singletary. It's David Montgomery. I always interchange their names. But, yeah, so they cut Montgomery, or they traded Montgomery, and Khalil Herbert was next man up, and I was very excited, as probably most people were, and then they signed Dante Foreman, who had a pretty good year last year, kind of came out of nowhere for the Panthers. So, but I still think Khalil is the higher ceiling guy, and I think he's the more talented back. And they did draft Roshan Johnson as well, who I do kind of like, especially like maybe second half of the year. He's not going to make waves in the first few games. But I do think Khalil Herbert, when he's exciting when he has the ball. He's always, yards per carry and stuff, yards per touch has always been really good. It's just they gave the ball to Montgomery a lot. So, I think he actually does have a good year, and I think he ends up being their RB1. And Justin Fields, you got to worry about him running the ball so much. It just opens lanes for running backs. I mean, you see it with the Ravens. Whatever running back they put in is successful because you got to worry about Lamar running.
Yeah.
So it's going to be the same way with Justin Fields, I think. And, I like Khalil.
All right. Next up, we have the Green Bay Packers. Who do you have for me?
Packers, I'm going to go with Jaden Reed.
Okay.
Again, a draft pick for them this year. They took him, wide receiver. He's they got Christian Watson there, and they got Romeo Dobbs, who maybe might have a decent year. This is just a kind of like a late round flyer. I don't care a whole lot for any of their offense. I just don't.
Why?
And maybe Jordan Love. Well, they got essentially. He's not a rookie, but he was playing behind Rodgers. The guy they drafted when they had Rodgers there is now going to be starting this year, and you don't really know what he has. I mean, he did play a game last year or a couple games. Can't remember, and he was okay in it, but he's just, I don't. None of them had excellent production. I mean, yeah, Christian Watson toward the end of the year did have a good little stretch there with Aaron Rodgers. Like,
yeah.
If Rodgers returned, I wouldn't think he'd duplicate that over a full season. But take away Rodgers, and I really don't think he's going to. But again, this is like a late round flyer, a guy with talent who you're spending what on? Like nothing essentially. You pick him up after the draft, or get him in a late round, and again, I'll be honest, it's one of those like I'm picking one for each team, and that's who I'm going with. It's kind of he's a sleeper,
Gotta pick somebody.
Yeah, he's a sleeper, and I'm not. I was on AJ Dillon for the last 2 years, and he screwed me in almost every league. I think I finally
go with him again.
Yeah, I finally dropped him last year, and then all of a sudden he had a good end of the season, so it's like I'm just out on him. And
actually, this might be the time that he succeeds, though.
Oh, it absolutely probably
when
will
you
be.
don't take him.
Yeah. So draft AJ Dillon is basically what I'm saying.
All right, let's move over to the Windy City with the Lions. Who are you taking?
Okay, well, so if you want to go to the Windy City, we'll go back to Chicago.
Oh, where am I going now?
So let's go with Khalil Herbert and Chicago. You want to go to the Motor City in Detroit. So
let's go.
We're not editing this out, by the way. We might edit that out, how I can't say the word edit, but we're gonna keep that in.
Let's go over to the Motor City.
Motor City in Detroit.
Yeah.
Home of Marshall Mathers. We're gonna go Jahmyr Gibbs. I talked about this in like my future bets. I had him for leading the league in touchdowns as a flyer. Do I think he legitimately? I mean, he has a shot. But I do think he's a great fantasy pickup. He's, they drafted him in the first round as a running back, higher than anyone said they should have. Obviously, he went after Bijan Robinson. He wasn't the first running back off the board, but I mean, the guy's got incredible talent. He's a great pass catcher, so I think he's going to be. While they might have, let's see if I can get it right, David Montgomery, not Devin Singletary.
Right, no Singletary.
I think he's going to excel in that role where you kind of saw DeAndre Swift like somewhat, you saw flashes of it. And when they threw him the ball, it was fantastic. But I think Jahmyr Gibbs is going to be a healthy version of that, and someone who's not hopefully going to be in coach's doghouse like Swift seemed to always be. But yeah, they have Montgomery there now. And while he might, or probably will take some touchdowns and stuff away and some touches away, both backs really I think can succeed in this offense. The Lions were like by far the best. Their running backs put up the best numbers last year by far. I'd mentioned before in another video, Jamal Williams led the league in rushing touchdowns, and the second, closest guy was behind him by 4. And Jamal Williams had a great year, take nothing away, but he should not be doing that. He's not a top tier running back. I don't know what his career high was before the 17, but it was by far single digits. So anyway, Jahmyr Gibbs I think is phenomenal talent, especially where you can draft him. You're not wasting like a first round pick and I don't say wasting because I think Bijan Robinson will be great, but he's first round pick. Jahmyr Gibbs is much further down, and I think he could be, at least an RB2. I think so.
All right, let's move over to the Vikings. Who do you have for me?
Vikings. I'm gonna go with Jordan Addison, rookie wide receiver. He's gonna be opposite of Justin Jefferson. Obviously, they got rid of Adam Thielen, so he's their wide receiver too. They're gonna have to throw the ball a lot. And no matter what you think of Kirk Cousins, which, by the way, that quarterback show that you always...
Yeah, I was just thinking about him because as soon as I saw the Vikings, I was like, oh, look, Kirk Cousins.
Yeah.
We just watched him on TV.
You know what? He seems like a really good dude.
He does.
I don't know how much if you've paid attention when I have that on, but yeah, he seems like a
Family
good dude.
man.
I'm rooting for him now.
Very
But
humble.
But some people don't care for him. I think he's actually a little underrated, to be honest with you. But Anyway, point being, it's their defense is going to be atrocious, as it's been really, and they're going to throw the ball a lot. They wasted not wasted, but they took, Addison with a first-round pick. So they're going to use him. He's going to be the wide receiver 2. Justin Jefferson's still obviously going to get most of the attention, which is going to free up Addison. And yeah, I believe he had some problems with drops and stuff in college, but if he can put some of that talent together and stuff, then yeah, how could he not put up numbers as the number 2 receiver in the Vikings offense, who throw a lot? They got rid of Dalvin Cook. So they're probably going to have to throw more again to stay in games. Yeah, I like him.
All right, that wraps up the NFC North. Let's move over to the NFC East. First up, Dallas Cowboys.
Cowboys, okay.
Yeah.
Cowboys, I'm going Tony Pollard. I mean, that's kind of an obvious one. They have, I guess, you could say CeeDee Lamb or whatever. They have good wide receivers and whatnot. I just think Pollard is going to be phenomenal this year. He's another guy that, he's one of those, you don't want to take him over, some of those top running backs that are going first, like the McCaffrey and the Ecklers. But when I took Eckler in one a couple nights ago, and I was just like, you hope that Pollard's gonna last around 2, which he didn't, of course. But it's like one of those. It's just like, man, I could actually see Pollard finishing ahead of those guys now that he's essentially by himself in Dallas. Zeke's gone. You're not going to get any touchdowns vultured away. He had 9 rushing touchdowns on his own last year. That number's probably going to go up without Zeke there. Plus, he's a great receiving back. If he stays healthy, I think he's going to be phenomenal and a clear RB1.
Didn't we just draft him last night?
Pollard? No, he's the guy that the other night I kept saying. I was like, I think it was Eckler we had, and I was obviously you got to draft Austin Eckler first. But I was just like, man, it would be crazy if he would
still around,
stay to us, and he lasted way longer than he should and went the pick right before us. So yeah, I've been a little disappointed. I don't have as much stock in him this year as I want.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Why not?
Because people are starting to see it. I mean, it's an obvious choice. He is. It's an obvious choice. But side note, actually, I don't think I put any defenses on here, but Dallas's defense I think is going to be stout this year. Which it was good before, but they added Stephon Gilmore. I think they're actually. I can't believe I'm saying this because I'm usually against them, but we'll talk about it in the betting episodes. But I really like Dallas this year for a lot of games, maybe a Super Bowl future.
Whose defense did we take last night?
We have the Jets a lot.
Yeah,
we have the Jets a lot, which are they're good defense too, for sure.
All right, so we're moving on to the Giants. Who do you have for me?
Giants, I'm going with Darren Waller. So obviously Saquon, I think, is going to have another good year and whatnot. I just think Darren Waller he's not a sleeper. Obviously, people are taking him and stuff, but he could, if he stays healthy, which is a big if for him, I will say.
Why is that?
Because his injury history, he's just never seems to stay healthy after his couple big years there. But he could finish in the top 3 tight ends for sure, which isn't too far off of where he's being drafted, to be honest. But he could pass. I mean, I'm pretty bullish on Mark Andrews this year, but he could potentially pass a Mark Andrews or something. I don't know if anyone's going to pass Kelsey until he's like 50 years old, but he's a top of the line tight end again if he stays healthy. Brian Daboll in that offense took a huge step forward last year, and I think it only continues.
All right, let's move on to the Commanders. Who do you have for me?
It's also no one great in that passing game. Like they have like a bunch of, I don't even know, like role player receivers kind of thing. Like Darius Slayton is like their number 1. So Darren Waller is going to be essentially their number 1 receiver, as Kelsey is to the Chiefs. Just side note. Who are we moving on to?
Let's move on to the Commanders, who we
Maybe
just
I do
watched.
like him better than Andrews now that I talk myself
sounded
into
like it a little bit. We're going to the Commanders, and we just saw them play the Ravens.
Yes, you were at that game live, weren't you?
I was.
Yeah. That was fun. Side note, no disrespect to anyone that's a Commanders fan, but you guys, I don't know if it's a good or bad. It's probably a good thing. You guys are football fans, but you guys celebrated in those stands after beating the Ravens in the preseason game like it was a Super Bowl. I mean, I'm pretty sure I don't even know if I knew the score. You're over there sleeping, and no, I'm kidding. But
no, it was a close game.
no, it was good for a preseason game, but no one on that field at the end was gonna make a team, essentially. So
Yeah.
it's like it was just funny to watch. We were getting trash talked so much for
Yeah.
wearing our Ravens stuff, and we're just sitting there like, dude, we don't care. Like I could care less about that preseason streak.
We literally had
But-
a little kid. He was like 9, and he was like, "You're wearing the wrong jersey, man."
Oh, that kid was
I
funny.
like-
But the grown men at the end, the grown
Yeah.
men were telling us sarcastically, "Yeah, have a great night. Have a safe drive home, Ravens fans."
Yeah.
And it's like, buddy, I mean, congrats on your Super Bowl, I guess, but
They won by 1 point, right?
but yeah, they
Yeah.
won, and I could care less. It's
yeah.
you know.
And also, their stadium food is like really expensive.
Yeah, you guys, you know what? Again, no shot at Commanders fans, but tell your, I know it's like an old stadium, I guess, but your guys' food, you need to up that game. And it was $12.50 for a pretzel.
A pretzel. I've never paid
$12.50
that
for
in
a
my
pretzel.
life for a
I know
pretzel.
some stadium food's expensive, but the Ravens really dropped theirs, and I mean, at least when you pay for it, when it's like.
I mean,
Philly's-
we went to Philly.
yeah,
and
yeah, the
their
Eagles stadium
pretzel was legit. I would pay
Oh, the
$12.50
Link had a
for that
good
pretzel, again.
Yep.
The cheese.
Yep.
Mm.
Wow.
Oh man, that was good. Okay,
Too
let's
bad
get
it's
back
late.
to
I'm
the
getting
point.
hungry. Okay.
We're on the Commanders.
Yes.
Let's talk about them. Tell me who you have.
Jahan Dotson.
Mhm.
I like him a lot this year. He had 7 touchdowns as a rookie. And it's like Terry McLaurin, who I do like as well. They're just they have no quarterback ever. That's the thing. I mean, and it is a question again this year. Sam Howell, I assume, is going to be better than Taylor Heineke and Carson Wentz and that. But let's hope.
Yeah.
Obviously, they both caught a few passes in the preseason game because you heard me at the beginning. I was talking about him, and
Yeah.
then you were like, "Oh, your guy caught another one and another
Yeah.
one." I think he had like 4 straight plays with a catch. But again, preseason playing against backups and stuff. Although the Ravens secondary is probably going to look similar to that when the regular
Yeah.
season starts. But anyway, 7 touchdowns as a rookie. I think he takes a step forward with Sam Howell. I feel like that whole offense can't really take a step back. Their quarterback plays have just been at the bottom of the league for so long. New offensive coordinator, Terry McLaurin taking away some of that attention. Yeah, I like Jahan Dotson. And again, where you can draft him.
Oh my gosh. Do you remember when the game first started and the guy behind us was like, "Go, Sam," and I was like, "Is he talking to you?"
Yeah, that's
I
their
didn't realize
quarterback,
that was
Sam
the
Howell.
quarterback's
Yes.
name.
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't laced them up in a while, or hardly ever.
All right, let's move on. Who do you have for me and the Eagles?
The Eagles, I'm going to say DeAndre Swift.
Okay.
So, again, I mean, of course, you have Jalen Hurts and stuff, the obvious ones. DeAndre Swift, while the injury history is a huge concern, for sure. They also signed Rashad Penny, and there's talks of, Kenneth Gainwell, sorry. Gainwell perhaps becoming the RB1 or them just, splitting by committee and stuff. I think DeAndre Swift is the most talented one. So, again, you're not wasting a high-round pick on him, but if he turns out to, live up to his full potential, I mean, he could be, a huge guy that plays, like, well above his draft position. Jalen Hurts will probably vulture some touchdowns still. They love to run it with him, on short yardage situations and down by the goal line, but again, that running quarterback opens up room. I mean, you saw Miles Sanders. I don't even think Miles Sanders, no disrespect, is that great. Like, I think he's going to take a huge step back in Carolina. But you saw what he could do with the league's best offensive line, which is projected to still be the league's best offensive line this year, and a running quarterback who they got to focus on and be worried about running himself. It's just going to open up lanes for DeAndre Swift. And the talent is there. It's just the injury history.
Yeah.
But if he stays healthy, I think he rises above the other backs, and he'll be their starter.
Well, let's hope he stays healthy.
Let's hope.
All right, so that wraps up the NFC East. Let's move over to the NFC West. And first up, we have the 49ers.
49ers, I'm going with Brandon Ayuk.
Okay.
Obviously, he's in another offense, like I said, that they got a lot of mouths to feed. Obviously, McCaffrey is going to be the number 1 or 2 overall fantasy draft pick. So you got McCaffrey, you got Deebo Samuel, you got George Kittle. But Ayuk he's probably the most talented wide receiver. While Debo, yeah, he's like phenomenal after the catch and everything, and he adds a lot to the team. Ayuk runs crisp routes. He's again a prototypical kind of size-wise wide receiver. That's a hard thing to say.
Tongue twister there.
Yeah, he's
Say
a
that
good
5
wide
times
receiver.
fast.
Let's just go with that. Yeah, I mean he's gonna put up really big games and he's gonna put up just stinkers. He's gonna lay an egg a time or two. Yeah. This is a kid-friendly show, so I can't, it's gonna be. I'm gonna be talking a little bit like a dad here.
Sorry, dad.
Yeah,
jokes are
he's gonna. I think he had 3 games of 20 or more points, and then he had 8 games of single digits, and it's it's just a waste, or just seems like he didn't even show up. So,
yeah.
Not a guy you're taking as your number 1 receiver, but he's gonna have some boom games for you, and great guy to maybe come off the bench, and if he gets more consistent with it, then yeah, okay, now you have an every week wide receiver that you're starting. So, yeah, I mean, obviously McCaffrey is. Everyone loves him. But yeah, Ayuk I think is going to be the best of their pass catchers, I would say. So.
Okay, let's move on to the Seahawks. Who do you have for me?
Seahawks, I'm going Zach Charbonnet. So, I mean, they drafted him in the 2nd round to back up Kenneth Walker, who kind of, when he came out last year and came out of nowhere, obviously he was a phenomenal player. He kind of fizzled down the stretch and dealt with some injuries. He's dealing with some injuries again in camp, which, Charbonnet did too to his own right. But it looks like they're both healthy now. But if Charbonnet comes out and now plays him, I could see Pete Carroll switching that up. So somebody that, maybe you don't, put in your starting lineup the first couple weeks, but see if he outplays Walker, if Walker gets hurt. And then you have the number 1 running back in a Seahawks offense who obviously love to run the ball. So, yeah, I like him, and I'm excited to see what their offense looks like this year, especially if Geno Smith can repeat what he did last year. Because I didn't take him on this list because I don't know that he can repeat that.
Yeah.
Obviously, it was crazy how he came out of nowhere, but yeah, I do. I like Charbonnet, especially as kind of that handcuff to Kenneth Walker. So
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
we will.
All right, next up we have the Cardinals. Who do you have for me?
Cardinals, I mean, gosh, they're just terrible. So you got to go James Conner. I mean, boring pick, and I feel like everyone probably knows this at this point, but he always seems to finish. I mean, it's 3 out of the last 5 years he finished as a top 10 running back, and you still get him super late. I mean, he's still, even though everyone knows this, it's still well, it won't happen this year. And, at some point they're going to be right, but while he's still doing it, you might as well. Who else is going to get the ball in that offense? I mean,
yeah.
They're terrible. Kyler Murray isn't even. I don't even know when he's going to play. I'm not picking Marquise Brown. You know that we can't stand him. So
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, James Conner, he's boring and whatnot, but he's got a super low or a super high floor. He's going to get a ton of touches. He's got to. The offense has to
shed a little bit of light on why you can't stand Marquise Brown.
We are Ravens fans.
Yeah.
He's, what? I won't go there. If you're a wide receiver in the NFL, you have to be able to catch the ball, especially when you're literally wide open. That's all I'm going to say.
Okay, we'll leave it alone. Let's move on to the Rams. Who do you have for me?
Rams, I'm going with, and this is kind of an obvious one, but Cooper Kupp. He's actually, even though he's going in the 1st round, I feel like he's actually being undervalued. He could potentially be, better than the 5, 6, 7 guys, whatever he's going with, going in front of. I think we drafted at 9 the other night and got him, which I feel like is too low, to be honest with you. I mean, of course the injury thing, but he's always been a pretty healthy guy. He got injured last year, and their whole season was just atrocious last year. Everyone got injured. Yeah, he had something in camp this year, but there's a lot of guys that do. He's already back from it, and, it's whatever. It's not like he has a history of hamstring injuries. He had it this offseason, and, I mean, for me, it's all right, good, because other people, if that scares them away, I mean, you could have the number 1 receiver. He wasn't long ago, he finished as the number 1 receiver, and last year when he played, he was that guy. It's just he didn't play long enough to, really finish, as you would like, but on like points per game basis, he was still phenomenal.
Yeah.
Like they're gonna throw him the ball especially if Stafford stays healthy, which that is a big if. Like especially down the stretch, you want your best players for the later weeks and getting toward the playoffs. And the Rams could be terrible and bench Stafford, but I actually think, while I don't think Stetson Bennett is going to be like some starter in the NFL or something, if they turn to him eventually, I think he could still get Kupp the ball as long as Kupp stays healthy. I think he's going to be phenomenal.
All right. Well, we'll see what happens.
Which shouldn't come as a surprise to anybody, obviously,
Yeah.
but
All right, that wraps up the NFC West. Let's move on to
who do we
the
have left? Sorry, you were going to tell me.
Yeah, I'm getting there. We're going to go into the NFC South.
Got it.
And we have the Saints up first. Who do you have for me?
Saints, I am going with Chris Olave.
Okay.
So obviously he was great last year as a rookie. They, not going to take one of their running backs because Kamara being suspended, and maybe you can get him for a steal and stuff. But I don't really. Even if he wasn't, I'm not a huge Kamara guy anymore. I just feel like I loved him a lot better when Breeze was there. He just caught so many more passes and stuff. But anyway, Derek Carr being there, they have a better quarterback to throw him the ball. Despite what you think of Derek Carr, I feel like he's better than Andy Dalton and the guys I had throwing him the ball last year, and he put up a great season last year. So a guy like, just like Garrett Wilson could take a step forward from an already great rookie season. Michael Thomas is supposed to be healthy, so it's not like he's going to be the pure focal point for a defense to focus on and double team or whatever, hopefully. But yeah, I think, he just takes another step forward. Derek Carr is not a terrible quarterback. He can certainly get him the ball.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he has a great breakout or second season. Really just another step forward because he was already great his rookie season. So,
Okay, next up we have the Bucks or the Buccaneers.
Bucks or Buccaneers. Okay, so I'm going to go Rachaad White with the Bucks.
Okay.
They want to run the ball more. And Rachaad White, while, he didn't set the world on fire last year, he certainly outplayed Leonard Fournette, who's no longer there. He's a good pass catcher. There were a lot of actual times. I don't know if you remember, I had him on a lot of the overs for his catches on prop bets.
I do remember.
And he came through a lot.
Yeah.
He was like my number one guy last year. They kept setting him at like a catch and a half or 2.5 catches, and he would get it like the first drive.
Yeah.
Granted, Brady's not there, but Brady didn't play that great last year. Let's be real.
Yeah.
They definitely had a bad season last year, and Baker Mayfield. I'm not thrilled with it, but that's probably again more of a reason to take their running back because they're probably going to run the ball a lot. And hopefully, if he checks down a bunch to him, that's catches for PPR leagues especially. So, yeah, I do like him. He's going pretty late in drafts as well, and he's going to be the starting running back, a clear starting running back for them. For some reason, I actually kind of like Mike Evans this year, and I don't know why. It's almost just a feeling. I feel like he's been kind of forgotten. And for some reason, I just see a Baker Mayfield and Mike Evans connection as well.
Yeah.
Just side note, I know I'm kind of cheating here, but I'd go Rachaad White.
Let's move on to the Panthers. How you feeling with them?
Panthers, I'm gonna go with, I believe it's Chuba Hubbard. I called him Chubbard for years, and everyone calls him Chuba now, so I don't know. But Chuba Hubbard, no. So
we'll go with it.
Let's go with it. So. He obviously, they signed Miles Sanders to a big deal. He's going to be their starter. But I know Sanders played a full year before. I don't know why. It just seems like I feel like he was just a product of where he was playing behind the Eagles line and with Hurts and all that. And before that, I know he had some injury issues and whatnot. You're getting a guy you're getting for nothing. And kind of just lack of having anyone to choose from there. I'm not going to choose, I know they signed Adam Thielen. He wasn't even good last year, really, so definitely not taking him with a rookie quarterback throwing him the ball. Yeah, I'd go him because I really don't want Miles Sanders, honestly, at all. But Hubbard showed flashes of, being a pretty solid running back last year, and a guy that you can get, especially if you're going the zero running back strategy and just taking kind of backups that could become starters and whatnot. he's a guy you can get in the later rounds, and if Miles Sanders has injury issues, which he's had a little bit of in training camp, so you could have a starting running back later in the round. So
Yeah. Okay. Last but not least, the Falcons. Who do you have for me?
Falcons. Okay, so Falcons, I actually have. Obviously, everyone loves Bijan Robinson, but you got to use a first-round pick on him. I actually have Tyler Algier for the Falcons. He was a rookie last year who eclipsed 1,000 yards, which is phenomenal.
Yeah.
They're in the number one rushing offense. Like, they run more than any team in the league, and while that is probably going to change slightly, it's not going to change a whole lot. They got Desmond Ridder throwing the ball now, which he throws better than Mariota, another guy from that show
Yes.
on Netflix, who I like. All three of them were awesome,
Yeah.
honestly, in that show.
Seem like good people.
But, yeah, so if anything, God forbid, were to happen to Bijan Robinson, you have a phenomenal starting running back in his second year who's coming off a 1,000-yard season, who's going to be on a team that runs the ball probably more than anyone else.
Mm-hmm.
Even if Robinson plays the whole year, and looks like he's going to be great, of course, but they could potentially feed two mouths there at the running back position. All the reports say that they still have plans for Algier and whatnot, and, take it with a grain of salt, just like every report in training camp. But another guy that definitely, if you're doing like a zero running back strategy and just taking running backs in later rounds, he'd be the first one I'd look at. I think he's got the best value of any second-string running back. And also, if you're in a pinch on bye weeks or your guys got hurt or whatever, he's probably the better backup running back to put in your lineup because he's going to get some usage. He could definitely vulture a touchdown here or there in any given game and maybe still get, 10 carries or something.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, well, you've fulfilled all the teams.
That was
all
it.
the divisions.
Okay. Nice.
Everything's covered.
I'm glad. I'm impressed that you remembered every team name to read off. Oh, I said read. Sorry. Yeah, she's reading.
Yeah, I cheated. Oopsies.
All right, guys. Well, that was every team. One player from every NFL team that you should definitely target in your fantasy draft. Who do you guys like? Leave it down in the comments. Is there anybody that you think I mentioned that you hate? Love to hear the feedback. Subscribe, like the video, all that good stuff I'm supposed to say. Oh, and say hello to our dog who just ventured in here.
He wants to go to the bathroom.
He had some comments. He disagrees with some of the
He clearly
some of the
doesn't
picks
like
I
our
had
picks.
here. He doesn't like them. What do you guys think? You like them? All right, guys. We'll see you on the next one.